This is the rise and the fall of Polaris snowmobiles and how its glory destroyed everything. In 1982, a factory worker in Minnesota could walk into a dealership and buy a brand new Polaris Indy 500 for $2,800. That was 12% of his annual income. He could finance it with overtime, fix it in his garage with basic tools, pass it down to his son. Today, that same worker's grandson is staring at a Polaris Patriot Boost for $18,500. That's 35% of median household income. He can't afford it, can't fix it without dealer software. And that's not a failure story. That's a success story. Polaris won. They dominated the industry, became the #1 sled manufacturer in the world. And in winning, they destroyed the very thing that made snowmobiling great. The working man's winter playground became a rich man's toy. And I'm going to show you exactly how it happened. I need to be honest with you. Polaris sleds were never my first love. I grew up riding whatever we could afford. Hand-me-downs, beaters. But Polaris was always there. The brand you saw on every trail. The sled your buddy's dad had in the garage. The machine that just worked. Polaris wasn't flashy like Ski-Doo's triples. Wasn't exotic like Yamaha's four-strokes. They were the blue-collar workhorses. Reliable, affordable, fixable. And that's exactly why what happened to them matters so much. Because Polaris wasn't supposed to become this. They were supposed to be different. The Polaris story starts in 1954 in Roseau, Minnesota. 3 guys, Edgar Hetton, David Johnson, Alan Hetton. They weren't trying to build an empire. They were trying to survive brutal Minnesota winters. The first machine they built was called the Snow Traveler. Crude, heavy, loud, but it worked. By the 60s, Polaris was a real company. Still small, still scrappy, competing against Ski-Doo's dominance in Arctic Cat up the road. They weren't winning on innovation, they were winning on value. Build a solid sled, price it fair, stand behind it. That was the Polaris way. Through the 60s and 70s, they grew steadily. Nothing flashy, just consistent. Then 1980 happened, and everything changed. The Polaris Indy line launched in the early 80s, and it was a revolution. Not because it was the fastest, not because it had the most power, because it was affordable performance. A real snowmobile that regular people could actually buy. The Indy 400, the Indy 500. These weren't stripped-down budget sleds. They were legitimate machines with slide rail suspensions, reliable fan-cooled engines, and build quality that lasted. You could beat on an Indy all winter, and it would fire up next season. Mechanics loved them because parts were cheap and available. Riders loved them because they were fun and dependable. Polaris was printing money. By the mid-80s, they were outselling everyone. The Indy became the best-selling snowmobile platform in history. Not the fastest, not the flashiest, the best value. That's what mattered. Then came the 90s and Polaris decided they wanted more. They'd owned the value segment. Now they wanted performance, racing glory, premium pricing. The Polaris XLT arrived and changed everything. This was Polaris stepping into muscle sled territory. Liquid-cooled triple-cylinder engines, long travel suspensions, aggressive styling. The XLT could run with Ski-Doo and Arctic Cat's performance sleds. And it was good, really good. Polaris started winning races, Eagle River, cross-country endurance runs, the I-500. Suddenly, Polaris wasn't just the working man's sled, they were champions. And that success felt incredible. But it came with a cost that nobody saw coming. Racing success meant premium pricing. The XLT cost more than the Indy. The race replica models cost even more. Polaris started chasing the premium buyer, the guy who wanted the latest tech, the fastest sled, the championship pedigree, and that buyer paid whatever it cost, so Polaris kept pushing. More power, more features, more complexity, more price. The Indy line that built the empire got pushed aside. Still available, sure, but all the marketing dollars went to performance sleds. All the innovation went up market. The affordable Polaris that made them successful became an afterthought, and Wall Street loved it. Higher margins, premium brand positioning, growth in average sale price, everything shareholders wanted. everything riders didn't. By the 2000s, Polaris had transformed completely. The IQR chassis introduced in 2005 was legitimately revolutionary. Rider-forward positioning, incredible handling, race-winning performance. But it was complex, expensive to build, expensive to buy, expensive to maintain. Then came the Axies chassis in 2015. Even better, even more expensive. Now the Matrix platform. Cutting edge, premium priced. These are objectively better sleds than anything Polaris built in the 80s or 90s. Faster, better handling, more reliable in some ways. But here's what they're not: affordable, fixable, accessible. Let me tell you what it's actually like trying to work on a modern Polaris. You can't. Not really. The Patriot engine is a marvel of engineering. Lightweight, powerful, efficient. It's also completely computer-controlled. Fuel injection mapping, electronic throttle, diagnostic codes that require dealer software to read. Try to adjust something and you void warranties. Try to fix something and you need proprietary tools. The clutching system is so precisely calibrated that even installing an aftermarket requires recalibration. The suspension has so many adjustment points that you need a degree to set it up properly. These sleds are incredible machines, but they're not your machines. They're Polaris machines that you get to borrow if you can afford the payments and the dealer service bills. And the pricing. Let's talk about the pricing, because this is where the betrayal really hits. That 1982 Polaris Indy 500 I mentioned at the start, $2,800. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $8,300 in today's money. A comparable sled today? The Polaris Indy XC 137 starts at $14,000. That's 68% more expensive in real terms. But it gets worse, because that's not where buyers are going. Polaris pushes you toward the premium models. The Patriot Boost RMKKHAOS is $19,500. The Slash is $21,000. These are snowmobiles, machines you use maybe 20 weekends a year if you're lucky, sitting unused for 8 months. And they cost more than a used car, more than some new cars. Here's what that destroyed. The entry point. In the 80s, a 20-year-old kid working construction could save up for a season and buy a used Indy for $1,500. Ride it, learn on it, fix it when it broke. Graduate to a nicer sled in a few years, that pathway's gone. A 20-year-old today can't afford snowmobiling. Even used sleds from 5 years ago cost $12,000. The sport is dying from the bottom up. No young riders, no new blood, just aging enthusiasts holding on to old sleds or rich guys buying new ones. Polaris knows this. Everyone knows this. But the incentives don't align. Wall Street rewards premium pricing. Shareholders want margin expansion. Dealers want high-dollar sales. Nobody gets rewarded for selling affordable sleds to young people. And it's not just pricing, it's culture. Old Polaris was a tinkerer's brand. You bought a sled and made it yours. Aftermarket everything. Guys would rebuild entire machines in their garages over summer. Swap engines, customize suspensions. It was part of the experience. Modern Polaris actively fights that. Proprietary everything. Warranty restrictions, dealer-only service requirements. They want you dependent. Coming back every season for maintenance you used to do yourself. Buying parts at dealer markups you used to get from catalogs. It's the Apple-ification of snowmobiling. Beautiful, refined, completely locked down. The racing legacy that drove all this change, it's barely relevant anymore. Polaris still races, still wins sometimes, but the connection between race sleds and production sleds is gone. The sled that wins on Saturday has almost nothing in common with what you buy on Monday. Hand-built, purpose-made, completely different. In the 80s, you could watch a Polaris win Eagle River and buy that same platform at your dealer. That connection mattered, made you feel part of something. Now racing is just marketing, a billboard, nothing more. Here's what really gets me. Polaris succeeded at everything they set out to do. They wanted to be the #1 sled manufacturer. They are. They wanted racing glory. They got it. They wanted premium brand positioning. They achieved it. They wanted to maximize shareholder value. Stock price proves it. By every corporate metric, Polaris is a massive success story. But for snowmobiling, for the sport, for the community, it's a disaster. Because Polaris was supposed to be the people's brand, the accessible option, the company that kept snowmobiling democratic, and they abandoned that, chased profits, chased premiums, left behind the very people who built them. The numbers tell the story. In 1990, over 250,000 snowmobiles were sold in North America. Last year, 76,000. The market has collapsed. And it's not because people don't want to ride. It's because they can't afford to. The average age of a snowmobiler is now 56 years old. 56. That's not a healthy sport. That's a dying sport. Young people aren't replacing older riders. They're priced out. Student loans, housing costs, stagnant wages, and $20,000 snowmobiles they can't fix themselves. The math doesn't work. Polaris could change this. They have the engineering talent, the manufacturing capacity, the brand recognition. They could build a modern Indy 500. Simple, reliable, affordable, $12,000. Repairable with basic tools. Market it to young people. Bring them into the sport. Build the next generation. But they won't, because it doesn't make financial sense. The margins are better on premium sleds. The dealers make more money. The shareholders get better returns. So the affordable sled doesn't happen, and snowmobiling continues its slow death. I want to hear from you, especially if you're old enough to remember when Polaris wasn't like this. When did you buy your first Polaris? What did it cost you? Can your kids or grandkids afford to get into this sport today? Drop a comment and tell me your story. Because I think a lot of you are feeling what I'm feeling, that we lost something important, that the rise of Polaris destroyed the very thing that made it great. If you want more stories about how the machines we love got ruined by the companies that made them, hit that subscribe button and check out the next video where we're covering another piece of power sports history that went from people's champion to corporate sellout. Thanks for watching, and if you're still riding an old Indy, hold on to it. They don't make them like that anymore.